find that we as humans tend to spend a lot of time worrying over the health of our bodies, right? Eating well, exercising, removing toxins from our home, visiting the doctor if we have a pain or like a weird mole. But then we vastly ignore the health of our brains. Our brain is extremely powerful, and the older I get, the more I grow to be amazed at how powerful our mind can truly be to our overall wellness. And while I do think it is really important to do the things for the health of our bodies, I think neglecting the health of our brain can be just as detrimental, if not more detrimental, than anything else. So I thought that it might be fun to sit down and share a few lessons that I have learned in life that have really helped my overall mental health. Little lessons that give me clarity and practices and routines that help my mental hygiene. And then I'd love if after this video you'd share some of your favorite lessons that you've learned in the comments down below to sort of create a little thread of life-changing advice. Alright, lesson number 1. Just because someone is doing something different than you doesn't mean the way that you're doing it is wrong. I think one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned starting this YouTube channel and becoming a business owner is there isn't just one road to success. And in fact, if you're trying to recreate somebody else's road exactly, it's almost always going to end in failure because you need to forge your own path a little bit if you want to reach the summit. There's so many instances in life where we can look at what someone else is doing and think, wow, they are doing that right. It is very easy on a daily basis to see other people and compare the choices that you made or are currently making to theirs. And it can be very easy to look at this as a very black and white thing. One of you picked the right choice and one of you picked the wrong choice. But the truth is, it's actually very gray. In almost every case, there isn't just one right way to do things. And just because someone chooses to do something one way and found success with it, it does not mean you can't choose a totally different way and find your own success. And I think this applies to literally everything, from your career to money to parenthood. Number 2, you are not in charge of someone else's emotions. You cannot change how someone feels at any given time. Yes, we have the power to influence people's emotions, both in good ways and in bad ways, but ultimately we can't change how they react or feel. We cannot dictate which emotion or behavior someone is going to have. This was honestly a really hard lesson for me to learn, particularly with those that are really close to me, and I think it was most prevalent with my husband. Sometimes if he was in a bad mood or having a hard day with work, even if it had nothing to do with me, I would internalize it. I'd feel like I was doing something wrong because I couldn't cheer him up. Then I would try even harder to cheer him up, which almost always wouldn't work because, when you're having a bad day, you're just having a bad day. And then I'd feel defeated because I couldn't cheer him up, and then he'd feel defeated that I was defeated, that I couldn't cheer him up. You see the ridiculousness here, but that's just how it went. And I think it's just because as human beings, we can sometimes have this tendency to be a little self-absorbed, and we think everything has to do with us. If someone seems upset, we think that we said something wrong. If someone doesn't text back, we think that they must be mad at us. But as it turns out, the world does not revolve around me. Or you, really. I finally learned that I am not responsible for other people's emotions. My husband's allowed to feel bummed out if he's having a bad day, and that is not a direct reflection of me. Other people's emotions are not your responsibility. They are choosing their own emotions. All you can do is influence them. And then still, it's up to that person on how they want to process and interpret that. This concept has truly helped me so much in all of my relationships. Alright, lesson number 3, stop pretending like you know it all. On the surface, I know this seems like a really silly lesson. You're like, duh, Kallie, of course not one person knows it all. But I can assure you that we've all been in a situation where we have pretended to know or understand something that we didn't know. Maybe it was at work, just in casual conversation with friends. We act as if we know something because we didn't want to look stupid. Or we're not confident that we're intelligent as the other people in the room. I've finally allowed myself to let go of this feeling to act like I always need to know everything, because I definitely don't. I can't tell you how often I now say, I don't know, or I have no idea what you mean, or I don't know how to pronounce this, or I don't know what that is. And I don't think anyone thinks less of me when I do this. There are a lot of things I know, and I know really well, and I'm confident in my general intellect. But there's also a lot of things that I just don't know. And not knowing things doesn't make you less intelligent. If anything, being able to ask and question and learn makes you more intelligent. All right, number 4, this one's a little bit long, okay, ready? Someone's judgments of you often say more about them than about you, and vice versa. Your judgments of someone else might say a lot more about you than about them. Now, I think we've all heard the first half of this lesson, right? Very often, someone's perception of you says a lot more about them than it does about you. You know the famous quote, "We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are." People see things through their own lens of their lives, which is different than your lens. They've had a different life experiences, different hardships, different goals, different values, fears, accomplishments. All of these things are going to play into how they view. And so often their judgments of you say a lot more about the lens that they're viewing you through than you actually are. Understanding that can be really helpful to understand when you're processing those judgments people have of you. But it can also be very humbling to turn that lesson around and remind yourself that often the judgments we have of others can say a lot more about us than it does about them. Often if I catch myself passing judgment, I'll pause and I'll ask myself, why is it that I'm thinking this or saying this? Often our judgment is tied to something that we feel weak about ourselves, or something that we fear, or something that we don't want to face. Number 5, don't live above your means. I'll be honest, I spent many years living above my means. I've done it, and all that it did was get me into some debt. It is very easy to get caught up in trying to keep up. Keep up with what? I'm not even really sure. I guess with our friends, our neighbors, people on social media. Not to mention that never before in history have products been so available to us to purchase. We can order pretty much anything on Amazon in a single click and get it in less than 2 days. We can see a celebrity that we like wearing something and simply swipe up to purchase it. We can say, I want some French fries right now, and then with literally 2 clicks, pay someone to drop it off at your house and then just leave. Sales and deals are pouring into your email boxes multiple times a day. Targeted ads are bombarding us endlessly about new products that we would like and companies that match our demographics. Then add that to the strange, weird social pressures that we get from social media, always trying to make us feel like we need to have the latest, greatest, and you're left with what, in my opinion, is the biggest financial problem of our generation, which is overspending. I think that we think that spending on these things is going to make us feel good, but it almost is never the case. Maybe we feel good for a few minutes, we get excited about our new purchase, it makes us feel rich, but in the long run, we don't really have the money for this thing. It's not making us feel good. Obviously, cutting back at first is hard. It's a bummer to not get to buy the things that you want. You have to wait and save for purchases. You have to say no to things that you want. But in the long run, you're going to feel a lot better by yourself when you're not living above your means. You're going to start saving money. You're actually going to have some financial freedom. One of the best pieces of money advice I ever heard was, do you want to feel rich or do you want to be rich? If you're living above your means, you may have little moments of feeling rich, but you'll never actually be rich. And I'm using quotes because I find the word rich to be a little undetermined. Rich to one person isn't rich to another person. Anyways, you get the point. Living above your means maybe gives you little feelings of being rich, but ultimately leaves you broke and disappointed and probably stressed out about how you're going to make ends meet. Living below your means helps you save, gives you financial flexibility, and leads to a much stronger feeling of confidence in yourself. Number 6, declutter. You don't need it. I spent many years pretty disorganized. Cluttered in every nook and cranny of my house. My attic was stuffed to the brim. The basement was stuffed too. Closets packed tight. Drawers full of stuff. You get the point. But as I got older, and especially with motherhood, I've gotten a lot better at decluttering and removing things from my life that I don't need. I mean, listen, there's always room for improvement, but from where I was to where I am now is basically night and day. And the truth is, learning to be less cluttered has impacted my mental health in such a positive way. There have actually been countless studies around the association of clutter with stress. And it is very clear from these studies that people who view their homes as cluttered are impacted negatively by it. Clutter in the home is linked to higher cortisol levels throughout the day. That is your stress hormone. And one study even showed that people who lived in cluttered homes had a spike in cortisol levels in the early evening. That's when your body is usually naturally decreasing its cortisol as it prepares for night and sleep. Clutter is also directly connected to procrastination. Overall, the clutter in your life is not doing you any favors. Now, wanting to tackle the clutter and actually tackling the clutter is a big difference. Many of us have clutter and we want it gone, but we don't know where to start. So I'm going to link a few of my best declutter videos down below that share some of my favorite tricks that I have used myself to overcome clutter. But my overall best tip I always suggest is don't try to tackle it all at once. Give yourself a challenge to declutter one thing a day, even something small like one drawer or one shelf. Staying clutter-free isn't just one weekend a year that you purge, it's about little declutters every day to prevent the clutter from taking over in the first place. Okay guys, that does it. Those were my favorite little mental health lessons that I've learned. Like I said, please let me know some of your favorite ones down below. I think it would be so cool if we created this really great thread of just awesome life lessons that we've learned that have helped our mental health and our mental hygiene. As always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you're not following me on Instagram, I would love if you joined me over there. And if you're not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every single week, sometimes twice a week. Hit the bell button. You'll get notified every time a video goes live. But as always, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope you are having a fantastic day. And I'll see y'all in my next video. Y'all, because I am Southern today.